Hi guys, how are you? Nice to see you.
Hi, Tom.
First off, I suppose, how is everybody after the international break?
Yeah, it's straight back into it. I think it's a short period and short time frame we have before we have a game on Saturday. Normally, you're able to get that extra day by playing on a Sunday, but that's good. It's good the fact that we're at home, which obviously helps us logistically. I think because that short time frame becomes really important at how you work that. We're obviously still waiting on the two Australian players to return. They'll be back with us. They're back this evening. They'll be back with us tomorrow. So, but the girls look really good. You know, the spirits are good. It was obviously a difficult, probably couple of days for the England players. I think that for us it was also difficult because it impacted on some of our players one way or the other. So, but in terms of the atmosphere and the way the girls have come back in and the way they trained today, everything looks really positive.
After such a dramatic end to the Nations League, I presume that was still a huge talking point when the players came back to the club.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was speaking to them about that experience and what they were feeling, because it was really tough to watch. You know, I've even spoken to Serena this afternoon, and I was kind of saying to her at one point, I didn't know what was going on, who was in position, and they obviously knew what they needed to do, and they kind of did what they had to do. You know, they had an emphatic scoreline, and you know, they also turned the game around against the Dutch as well at Wembley. So, you know, speaking to her, I think it was a positive on the back of a negative, which is obviously really disappointing that the players won't be making the Olympics. But that's football, and it's really fine margins.
How did it feel though when you were probably watching the game and you saw Esme Morgan and Alex Greenwood play together centre half, little moment before the game, little high five? You must have had a little moment as well.
Yeah, I mean, great. I mean, obviously Esme coming in, I thought she did really well, and to have that familiarity with Alex alongside her would have helped her massively. So I think it was a good moment for her, and one that she deserves. I think we've always talked about Esme in glowing terms. You know, she's a top prospect. She's got real good attributes, and she's hopefully going to have a number of years here at the club where she has that platform to really develop.
Back to Villa. They were a difficult side to play against last season. So how big is this game on Saturday?
Yeah, it's a big game. You know, with these two remaining games we have before the break, you know, we've put ourselves in a decent position. I think that these two games are really crucial, and of course we've suffered in the past against this team, and we know how dangerous they can be. They are suffering a little bit themselves this season in some of their results, but I think their performances have been pretty good. So they still carry that threat and that danger that we saw last season. I don't see that changing at all this year.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We'll go to Zoom now. Asif.
Hi, Gareth.
Hi.
How are you? I just wanted to get your thoughts on the new structure of European clubs football announced this week. Aside from guaranteeing next season's champions a place in the group stage, can you see any positive aspects to the changes in the Champions League?
Sorry, just go through what the actual changes you're talking about regarding the Champions League.
Yeah, from 2025. So no extra places for English sides. You still have to go through a qualifying phase if you're second or third. So aside from just guaranteeing the champions a place in the group stage, can you see any positive aspects in the new format?
That it's going to remain the same?
Pretty much. They're just going to extend it to from 16 to 18, and then change the group stage from home and away round robin to you play 16s one time in a Swiss format.
Yeah, it sounds quite complicated, eh? I still get my head around it. Yeah, of course. I think when you look at some of the teams, and we've been involved in this in 2 seasons where you come up against you probably come up against an opponent which is actually a Champions League group match, or even a Champions League quarter-final. Is happening quite a lot, and it's really difficult. You know, so qualifying for the Champions League is extremely hard. Particularly with only 3 teams being able to do that, and then the qualification process as well is really tough. And I think that the only 4 teams, I think this season, 4 league winners were guaranteed places, and then everybody else has to qualify. Is really tough. But if that's the rules, then that's the rules. And I think I've always said the importance of trying to win the league, that can hopefully eliminate that qualification process has to be the target.
As a club who missed out this season, is there enough of an incentive to play for a club like City to play in a second-tier European competition with all the added costs and travel that would incur, but perhaps without the glamour of playing against the very elite sides?
Sorry, you spoke about potentially a second-tier competition.
Yeah, so is there enough incentive for a club like City to play in that with all the added costs and travel, but without the glamour of playing against the Barcelonas and Bayern Munich?
So kind of like a Europa League type, what we've seen with the men's. Each of those teams in the men's who've won the Europa League or the Europa League Conference, or try telling West Ham men's that that trophy doesn't matter. I think a competition is a competition. Of course, you want to be in the elite competition, but if that's what the rules dictate and they decide to bring in a new format or an additional format, I think that is a positive thing, regardless of. I would be pretty certain that the finances are available so that it's not. So it is cost effective for teams to be able to participate in those competitions. But yeah, for sure, if that's the way it goes, then if we were in that type of competition because we hadn't made the Champions League normal, then of course we would be like any competition we go in for, we'd be really keen to try and win it.
And just finally, will you be watching Sunday's game between Arsenal and Chelsea? And realistically, if you or anybody else wants to win the WSL, does the league need Arsenal to win that game?
No, not necessarily. Of course, I think I've said it previously. You really have to commend Chelsea in the first 8 games, taking 22 points out of 24. The only points they'd lost was against us, or gave away was against us. So you have to pay great credit to the way they've started the season. I couldn't tell you whether this win or a draw. I mean, a draw would probably be favourable for more of the other teams, particularly ourselves. But again, it means nothing if we don't take care of our own business, and we've just got to really focus on our game. It's a bit different than more recent weeks where we've been probably the last to play, whereas this time we're the first to play. We need to put those points on the board, and whatever happens, happens. I think, but like I say, you have to pay great credit to them in terms of how they started the season. And of course, sometimes these games throw up results sometimes that can help you. So, but we can only help ourselves if we take care of our own games.
Cheers, Gareth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go to Dan next.
Hi Gareth, hope you're well.
Hi Dan.
Obviously you won 7-0 last time out, so as a head coach, what do you kind of say to the players, going into this game after you won the last one kind of so emphatically?
Yeah, can we do it again? Can we do it again? Yeah. It sounds really simple, but no, I think there were some real positives. We 2 recent results in the WSL, obviously going to Old Trafford in that type of game and that type of pressure was amazing, and then to back it up the following week with the type of performance we gave, and we've been talking for a long time about this team potentially going and scoring and that type of scoreline and being really emphatic in the final action that we make. I thought once we got that first goal, we were really kind of relentless in what we tried to achieve, and every action that we made after that was in order to try and score a goal. And when we play like that, when we show that type of quality, I think there are a lot of really good things that allowed us to do that, from the players all the way from the back to the front, from the players who joined from the subs bench onto the pitch. I think there was a lot of real strong contributions, and yeah, like I say, I think it's just trying to recreate that is the hardest thing, because we know that's not easy, but we also know that the only thing that's stopping us from doing that is us. I think, we pay big respect to oppositions, and we know that, for instance, Villa have some decent individual players who can hurt you, but we really feel that if we can bring that type of mentality and attitude and certainly quality, then, we'll be a real match for anyone.
One player who made an impact from the bench was Laura Coombs. Obviously, she played a really big role for you last year. Obviously, you strengthened that area of the pitch, and it's maybe been a little bit more difficult for her to get minutes this year. But how impressed have you been with kind of her quality and what she's done, kind of to keep herself fit and ready and sharp for when she does come on to make a real big impact for you?
Yeah, with Laura, that is just not an issue. Her, in terms of what she presents and what we see and the way she trains, is just phenomenal. And I think she's a real inspiration for the young players that we have at the club, and certainly young players who watch her. Is that, she's an incredibly fit player. She gives everything. She works tremendously hard without the ball. She makes brilliant forward runs with the ball. She's got an amazing shot, which we're starting to see more of more recently. But again, she's just a great personality to work with. She's a calming influence in the team. She's a quiet leader, but she certainly helps the young players by giving them some motivation, giving them some tips, but also the way she performs, I think, is probably the biggest sign of, a player that has had a lot of experiences, has played in really good teams, is really valued by us, and whether she plays or doesn't play, really brings a hell of a lot to the team every day.
Thanks, Gareth. Best of luck for the weekend.
Cheers, guys.